Do you ever wonder why the icon of theater and drama are a happy and a sad mask? Or perhaps why choir groups would form a semicircular shape? Or did it ever occur to you if there is a god of theater? All of them had their own origins, and the Greek theater's classical period was to blame. Let's take a trip down memory lane in 700 BC. Drama, which means to do and to act, was invented by the Greeks. And though neighboring civilizations like the Egyptians and the Japanese have their own versions, the Greeks were known to create much more complex than them. According to the Facts and Details website, the early form of dramatic arts as a ritual was called Dionysian rites. It's a festival in honor of this guy right here, the god of harvest and wine. Each year, they would throw celebrations for a great harvest, thanks to the god himself. Think of parties, loud people having fun, and a very large crowd. In rituals like this, maenads were the stars of the show. They would dance frantically for a long period of time, feeling no fatigue and pain. It was believed that the maenads were possessed by Dionysus, hence their dance movement looked as if they were drunk. Maenads were the female followers of Dionysus. The word maenad is derived from the same root that gave us the words manic and madness. In David Wilde's The Greek Theatre Performance, he said that the maenads ritual later on evolved to singing dithyrambs, which you are hearing now. Dithyrambs are choral hymns performed by 5 to 50 men on stage. This is also where the first genre of drama came to life, and that is tragedy. This genre was the most popular at that time because the audiences wanted to see stories with tragic endings and morals. Instead of one actor telling a story, a group of actors called chorus worked together. A chorus consisting of 5 to 50 actors worked in one movement and voice so that the stories could be heard. Tragedies were also played out during the festivals that honored Dionysus. Actors would wear masks and costumes while singing dithyrambs and sacrificing animals. Because of this, the Greeks regarded Dionysus as the god of theater as well. Did you know that women were not allowed to act in plays during those times? They had very limited roles in many ways. That's why all actors were men. As much as audiences loved tragedy, Greek actors never killed their characters on stage. To them, it was inappropriate for death to be seen in plays. Therefore, passing away was only implied and said. Then emerges comedy. As opposed to the first genre, comedy is light in nature and depicts Greeks' daily lives. In contrast, tragedies were heavier in plots and were more likely set in the past and telling the stories of gods and goddesses. Did you know the tradition of people throwing food at the actors on stage originated in Greece? The audience would throw food or even rocks if they thought that the actors were not doing a great job. In Aristotle's writing, he explains comedy consists of characters who are there only for the audience to laugh at. They purposely make a mistake and the audiences does not complain from seeing it, representing the opposite of tragedy. Scholars believe that comedy allows us to gain insight into how the Greek society was. Comedy gave a window to the legal system, education, religious practices, and political beliefs of ancient Greece. We can split the development of comedy in Greece, specifically Athens, into three groups: the Old Comedy, the Middle Comedy, and the New Comedy period. Old Comedy actors rely heavily on audience interactions, particularly when singing the most popular song of the time. While Middle Comedy saw a reduction in interaction between the characters and the audience, comedy also developed to focus more on the situation being funny rather than humor and shame that is directed at the character and the actor. New Comedy was the Greek equivalent of a sitcom. Elements like prologues were used to set the scene so that an audience would get a story but with only part of it told through performance. Aspects of strong emotions such as love and hatred were used in a comedic setting for the first time. From tragedy and comedy developed satire, which is also called tragicomedy at that time. Just as comedy, satire was meant to get a lot of laughs from the audience, but just like tragedy, concepts would bear heavy stories that is meant to trigger personal or social change. Writers designed the characters' actions to shame people into change by seeing the actors mocked for things they do themselves. These were the difference between comedy and satire in Greece. Comedy was light-hearted, while satire used laughter paired with shame to provide social commentary and to make people or society change. It's your time to shine, Athena, the patron of architects.
Ancient Greece was home to some of the best architects of the time. Their remains are among the most popular tourist attraction in Greece. It's also easy to see where these theaters had a significant impact on the design of today's venues.
Many of Greece's cities were built on hills, meaning the seating for theaters could also be built on a natural slope. As what I've said, the architectural design of the ancient Greek theater influenced the design of today's arena. As stated in the Federation of Hellenic Associations website, in 370 BC, the ancient theater of Megalopolis was the largest capacity in Greece and was designed for a large audience with around 20,000 spectators with perfect acoustics. After 2,000 plus years, there is an arena that doubled the size of the megalopolis and designed to host over 50,000 people and labeled as the largest theater on the planet and can be found, believe me or not, in the Philippines. The Philippine Arena was recognized by the World Guinness Records as the largest mixed-use indoor theater. There are three major parts of Greek theater: the koilon, the orchestra, and the skene. The koilon is the place where the spectators can sit. The orchestra is the circular space in the middle of the theater. The theater design also left space for an orchestra or choir in front of the theatron.
Some theaters included a wall called the skene, which could be decorated or used as a backdrop and gave actors an out-of-sight area to change their costumes.
Without the mask, those at the top of the theater could not make out the actor's facial expression. All choir members would wear matching masks and wear the same mask throughout the play, implying there were collectively one character in the show. The two masks were also a nod to the muses of Greek mythology. Thalia, the muse of comedy, was depicted as a cheerful mask. She was young, full of energy, and always smiling. On the other hand, Melpomene, the muse of tragedy. Her mask is sad and often depicted with a weapon in her hand. Sometimes she even holds the mask itself. The difference between the two muses was highly exaggerated and helped showcase the difference of comedy and tragedy. Even before, there were VIP seats, and they call it prodria. It is the throne-like seats in the front row for officials and priests. Dr. Sean McElvoy from the Varnian College said, that masks were typically made from natural materials such as cork, then stiffened up with plaster to hold their shape. In reverence to Thespians, the actors in the English-speaking part of the world have been referred as Thespians. Let's proceed to those who play characters on stage and bring piece of theater to life, the actors. The first known actor in written play was Thespians of Icaria. Only men are allowed to perform on stage. As stated in the NC Theater website, while women were prohibited to perform, they were allowed to watch as part of the audience only. It is more than 2,000 years since the time of the ancient Greeks, but Greece continues to influence on how we live today. Have you ever been to a Pandora store? Or worn a pair of Nike sneakers? Or the name given to your breakfast meal? Everywhere you turn, there is likely to be a reference in Greek mythology. Remember, ancient Greek society at that time preferred word-of-mouth stories. From the early days of storytelling to the first performances honoring Dionysus, we can see how theater grew from its ancient Greek roots into today's cultural powerhouse. Undeniably, the huge influence of ancient Greek theater continues to blaze, whether on its Broadway, London West End, or elsewhere. The performance art pathway were the building blocks established in Athens nearly 3,000 years ago. Many of these aspects of ancient Greek life and history were able to find their way into modern consciousness, thanks to drama and theater. Oh, and to Dionysus and Athena as well. Thank you. Efkaristia, adio.